to order. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on October 27th, 2020, the committee is resuming the study of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the financial health of veterans organizations. Welcome to all of the witnesses who've graciously rearranged their schedules to come and appear before us. We greatly appreciate your patience and look forward to your contributions today. Just a few housekeeping notes. You can speak in either official language, French or English. There is interpretation for both. And before speaking, just wait to be recognized by name. And if you, the time will go by really quickly. I will give everybody an opportunity to speak their opening remarks. What I'll do, just because we're virtual, just keep an eye on me on the screen. I will do this when you have 1 minute left. Don't worry, a minute's a long time. And we're pretty good at not cutting people off too much. If I hear you going on and on, I may have to interrupt, and I apologize. And I will interrupt my colleagues on occasion if they're going long on their questioning. But we'll get started right away. First and foremost, introducing the witnesses. From Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada, we have Harold Davis, President. From Multi-Faith Housing Initiative, we have Suzanne Lee, Executive Director. From Veterans Transition Network, we have Oliver Thorne, Executive Director Operations. And from the Royal Canadian Legion, we have Bob Ankrit, Branch 60. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And I believe we're going to get started with opening remarks with Mr. Davis from the Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair. Afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. I'm Harold Davis, retired Master Corporal and President of Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada. I've been invited to speak here today. Please bear with me, for this is the first time that I've spoken to this committee, and I'm just a little nervous. I've been asked to offer my opinion on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the financial health of veterans organizations. I will offer my opinion from my experience dealing with Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada and from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 134, Shannigan Lake, BC, branch level, for which I'm a member of the Executive Committee represented to the zone of the Southern Vancouver Island. Impact on Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada cannot be compared to some of the larger organizations such as the Royal Canadian Legion, Royal Canadian Air Force Association, Army, Navy, and Air Force veterans, for these organizations are very large compared to the Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada. Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada is not a brick and mortar organization, and as such, expenses are very small comparable. The part that affects our organization is not membership. With so many veterans out of work and having to watch every penny, they don't want to indulge in any expenses that would place them in hardship. No matter how small organizations like ours rely on two things: memberships and kit shop sales. With COVID-19 restrictions, many activities, and a reduced income of a lot of Canadians, our kit shop sales have plummeted. Because of our size and very small income, we do not qualify for government assistance, nor do we require it at this time. However, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 134 is a brick and mortar organization and a completely different story. I can't speak on the Royal Canadian Legion Dominion Command requirements or how they are planning to help the local branches, for that is above my knowledge level of the Legion. I do know and can speak on how COVID-19 affects our local branch. With following the BC regulations on how businesses are allowed to operate while on restrictions, this has hurt our branch and how we operate. With zero income, we have to pay the bills every month for gas, electrical, insurances, and so on. And let me tell you, the bill companies don't care if there's a pandemic going on. They still want their monthly bills paid in full. Our branch, to survive at all, has resorted to bottle drives on Saturdays and having a scrap metal bin at the back of our branch for drop-off metal items to it. The branch, in turn, sells these items so that we continue to pay our bills. Currently, our branch is barely able to keep heads above the water line. As you can imagine, COVID did not help our Remembrance Week either. We were only allowed 3 poppy taggers out, and I was one of them. We were only, so our poppy fund didn't do as well as usual. to put it mildly, and that dramatically affects our bottom line, how we take care of our veterans in need from our branch and branch support for the community. Our branch has extraordinarily continually helped the community. Currently, due to pandemic, the lack of our Legion branch funding raised over our famous meat draws, which has not happened for quite a while. Our branch financially supports the local community as unfortunate evaporates, which has a harsh impact. So COVID has effectively shut down most all Legions across Canada, for what I've been able to read. Now that the placed a lot of veterans in need, in harm's way, in a situation where local Legions are unable to help them. This has a very troubling and a dramatic effect on both the veterans in need in our branch members. In closing, I would like to say that the support that the present government has given to veterans is slow, but getting there for the brick and mortar establishments. However, for smaller veteran groups like the Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada that work mostly out of somebody's home office, there's no support and no offers of assistance of any kind. In reality, with any actual assistance available, the government has placed so much red tape on it that it's virtually impossible to qualify for support. That's not worth for us even to apply. The grants that are starting to trickle in for the brick and mortar organizations are slow and way too late in coming. It's like veterans are an afterthought. It's only because of the organizations like the Royal Canadian Legion and such who continuously lobby the government for support was support created. In not total know of how the government knows how they make their decisions, but in my opinion, the decision process was very too slow. I understand that veterans are just one group within Canada that requires help, but they are a group that served their country with pride and distinction, and their health and welfare was affected while serving their country. This government should be willing to ensure that veterans are recognized as an important group and to be looked after also. Thank you very much for my time.
Thank you, and thank you for staying exactly on time. That was fantastic. We very much appreciate that. In my attempt to be efficient and get us going as quickly as possible, I missed a witness, and I deeply apologize for that. Mr. Brian Wilkins, president of the Oshawa Navy Club, also is joining us today. I thank you also for your patience and ability to be flexible to join us, and I will cede the floor to you now, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much for noticing me sitting here. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to the committee. Like Mr. Davis has just said, this has been a very long process. I don't understand these meetings in particular. You've had several of them now with the common denominator the same every time, help. I don't know, like, is this going to be the last one and then action's going to start, because it is needed drastically right now. As far as the Oshawa Navy Club is concerned, we're closed again now, of course. But we do a lot of community service. We have a home for battered women in Oshawa called the Denise House. We have Simcoe Hall Settlement House. We have our own veterans that we look after. We look after their families as well with pension advocates and things like that. Our past president, we just recently got some money for him that he didn't realize he even qualified for, and we used the Legion for that help. In Oshawa, probably the same as other cities, we all work together. We have 8 service clubs in Oshawa, and we all work together. There's no animosity between any of them. It's just very, very unfortunate that we've been put in this position now. We, like Mr. Davis has spoke of, we do have bills that have to be paid every month. And since this pandemic started, we've put out over $24,000 just to keep our doors open or to keep our building. We don't have a mortgage or anything, which thankfully we don't, but we still have heat, hydro, and all the things you have to pay for, regardless of whether you're open or not. Last year, we lost over $16,000 in rentals that canceled when the pandemic started. This program that we're all speaking of here today is very, very important to the brick and mortar, as Mr. Davis said, and the other groups as well. Nobody should be ignored. Nobody should be overlooked. If you don't think that this is very important to our veterans and what our government should be doing, take a survey in take a survey in the Netherlands, France, Poland, Afghanistan, and ask the people over there whether we deserve this or not. I think you'll find that there's a lot of people right now sitting and watching to see what decisions are made here and what help you guys are going to give to our service clubs and our legions, because the time is now to do it. It was time to do it 8 months ago, 9 months ago. We did get some help. It kept our doors open in July because we were destined to close permanently in July. That is something that's hit me very hard here in Oshawa, because just recently I helped close a Peterborough Navy Club permanently. They gave us some of their history off the walls and stuff like that. We've lost one in Burlington. We've lost one in Sarnia. Windsor, Ontario is a huge naval town. They've lost their Navy Club. This is very, very important to a lot of people. And like, you guys can sit there and you'll wonder if it's what help you can do. Well, monetarily, yes. I mean, everybody needs the monetary help, but you got to keep in mind something, that the CERB program was a lot of fraud in the CERB program, and I would hate to see them write off the money to welfare recipients that received it, federal and provincial inmates that received it, other people that receive it, and not allow enough to come to the legions, the service clubs, that will not only keep our doors open, but will help us through the next year, because who knows how long this thing is going to go on for. This could go on for another 6 months or more. To us, that's another $18,000 to $20,000 that we have to put out to be closed, and we just simply can't afford that. So I'm asking you guys on behalf of all veterans clubs, legions, and all the other service clubs, do the right thing. Get this started. Get it started now. Get the program started. Don't make it so difficult for the paperwork to sign up for it. We shouldn't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get something that we strongly believe we deserve. A lot of these guys, men and women, fought for their country, and now they're fighting for their existence again. And I think that's very unfair that we have to fight again for our existence, right? So I served in Afghanistan as a civilian. I've seen our guys in action. I've seen some of the things that they've done. I have family members that served years ago, and it's very, very important to me. It's personal to me that these clubs stay open. And any help that you guys can give or anything would be very, very greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And again, my apologies for momentarily missing you on the list there.
Well, sorry, I'm a pretty small guy. I don't stand out there.
Yeah, right. Now over to Susan Lee, Executive Director of Multi-Faith Housing Initiative. The next 5 minutes are all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is Suzanne Lee, and I'm the Executive Director of Multi-Faith Housing Initiative, and the one ultimately who's going to be in charge of overseeing Veterans House Canada. Thank you for the invitation to appear before the committee to outline the implications of COVID-19 on our organization's financial health. The Multi-Faith Housing Initiative is a charitable housing organization with a mission to provide safe, well-maintained, affordable housing and supports for individuals and families who are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. MHI has a proven track record with the development and successful delivery of affordable housing. We now own and operate 179 units in the Ottawa area, housing between 400 and 500 people. As you know from your 2019 report titled Moving Towards Ending Homelessness Amongst Veterans, veterans homelessness is an issue in our communities. As a result of that report, in June 2019, the government recognized the issue of veterans homelessness and passed a motion with cross-party support, which was presented by MP Neil Ellis, calling for a plan to end veterans homelessness by the year 2025. MHI is a key partner with the government. MHI is a key partner with the government, with Veterans House, the Andy Carswell building, in helping to deliver on that plan and the federal government's commitment. We wish to thank the federal government for providing funding to MHI for the building of Veterans House in the summer of 2019 in the amount of $6.5 million, which is made up of a combined $4.8 million grant and $1.73 million loan. Veterans House includes wraparound supports. This means immediate access to support services from a variety of partner agencies, some of whom have been before this committee as part of this very study. Our list of partners is included in the information page I have provided to the clerk in both official languages. Our goal is to provide stable housing with supports to recover from health, mental health, and addiction-related issues and improve homeless veterans' overall quality of life, as well as the lives of their families who are unable to provide for them with the support they need. Veterans House construction began in September 2019 at the former CFB Rockcliffe Air Base in Ottawa and is budgeted at $11.5 million. Despite the pandemic, we committed to completing construction. I'm very happy to say on this very bitterly cold day in Ottawa that we were opening our doors today and have started moving veterans in off the streets. However, because of COVID-19, we had to pause fundraising. Lockdowns and other important public health measures impacted our planned activities and slowed our construction. As well, the pandemic's effect on the economy had a devastating impact on a large number of our corporate and personal donors. This led to our need to find alternative fundraising solutions, engage various contingency plans, and mobilize a variety of partnerships to ensure that we would stay on track and be in a position to complete a safe and secure space for our homeless veterans. I am very happy to report that we have been successful in that monumental task. It remains important to make you aware of the impacts of the pandemic on the homeless vulnerable population, and more specifically on the realities of homeless veterans and the needs to find a pan-Canadian solution that is viable and sustainable for the immediate and long-term future. We are currently in discussions with private donors to identify opportunities for the Andy Carswell building, as well as for future Veterans House buildings across Canada. We believe that federal, provincial, and municipal governments are key partners to engage in these discussions, and we hope that the federal government, in light of its cross-party commitment to end veterans' homelessness by 2025, will wish to become a funding partner to action this plan. We have not sat on our laurels during these pandemic months. We are also in conversations with a number of possible new donors and have pivoted to virtual fundraising initiatives. Most importantly, we have enjoyed an abundance of public support for our joint cause. The Andy Carswell building has demonstrated clearly that when working together, we can leverage capital funding from all partners. The capital investment in future developments of Veterans House communities across Canada will enable us to sustainably continue to care for our veterans well into the future and without the need of direct ongoing federal financial support from the federal government. It will be something real and tangible that we can all feel proud of, serving our veterans for many years to come. MHI believes that Canada owes these men and women of the Canadian military service a duty of care. We are doing our part to respond to that. We also believe that there is strong federal support across all party lines for those former military members who are so desperate for our help. And for that, we are very thankful to you. Thank you very much for your attention today.
Thank you, and again, thank you for staying under the wire time-wise. Up next, we have from Veterans Transition Network, Oliver Thorne, Executive Director of Operations. 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the Chair and to the members of the committee for having me here today. My name is Oliver Thorne. I'm the Executive Director with the Veterans Transition Network, which is a registered Canadian charity that delivers group counseling programs for veterans of the Canadian Forces and the RCMP. Our program was first developed about 20 years ago at the University of British Columbia, where it originally existed as a research project. And 8 years ago, our organization was incorporated with the mission of expanding this program across Canada. In 2013, we became a service provider to Veterans Affairs Canada. Currently, a third of the veterans who attend our programs are covered by a Veterans Affairs claim. The remaining 2/3, we raise the funds to put them through the program at no cost. Currently, after 8 years of expanding, we're delivering in 9 provinces across Canada for men and women in English and French. And just a note on French before I continue. Aux membres francophones du comité, je m'excuse que mon témoignage aujourd'hui soit seulement en anglais. Si j'essaie en français, nous serons ici pas juste pour 5 minutes, mais pour toute la journée. Alors, je suis désolé, mais je suis tellement content de faire mon meilleur pour répondre à votre question En français, si vous préférez. Merci. Bearing in mind the short amount of time that I have today, I'd like to focus on three major topics, which hopefully will stimulate some questions, follow-up questions. So the first is the impact of COVID-19 on our organization specifically, what I feel has worked well and what has not worked well with the government and community foundation response to support veteran service organizations, and finally, our concerns for the future about the financial health of veteran service organizations as the pandemic continues. So first and foremost, speaking of our experience, so we deliver group-based programs that take place in person. They involve action-based interventions. These are not a good fit for the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously. So in late March of last year, we made the decision to postpone all of our programs that we had scheduled. This led to the immediate loss of almost all of our organizational funding. So over the next few months, I worked closely with our finance team to develop a pretty drastic financial measures plan that was designed to buy us 6 months or at least see us through until 2021. Essentially, this was the doomsday plan of at what point do we furlough staff, at what point do we cut salaries. In late March, early April, things were not looking good. After that plan was in place, however, I worked with my clinical teams and with the rest of my team and first to do some emergency fundraising, and second to adapt the structure of our program so that we could deliver a veterans program designed to support veterans specifically during COVID-19. We relaunched with those new programs across Canada in July, and thanks to the work of my team and our clinical network across Canada, we have ended 2020 in a strong financial position. 1 minute left. Okay, moving on quickly. What I feel has worked well and what has not. The CEWS program bought us the time to reinvent ourselves, gave us the stability to move forward with these new programs. Oh, sorry, 2 minutes. Is that right? Oh, that's time.
Nope, sorry.
Oh,
I was saying my bad. You actually have 2 minutes. I gave you the 1 minute warning a minute early there. Sorry.
Gotcha, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I believe worked well, the CEWS program was relatively accessible, quickly accessible. It bought us the time to reinvent our programs and to relaunch. I think the CEWS program was particularly important for charitable organizations because of their financial structure. We very often have difficulty raising overhead administrative funding that pays for our salaries. So the CEWS program was of a particular benefit. Additionally, the Veterans Organizations Emergency Support Fund was very quick and easily accessible. We received $200,000 at the end of last year of a $300,000 request. That application was very well aligned to the needs of veterans organizations. What I feel has not worked well is the Emergency Community Support Fund. Although it was obviously a gargantuan effort on the part of the government and the community foundations of Canada, which I think probably met the needs of the charitable sector in Canada quite well. However, this fund was poorly adapted to meet the needs of veterans organizations, both in terms of the amount of funding it gave to veterans organizations and how it was structured. In total, less than $250,000, from what I can tell, seems to have gone to veterans organizations, which is roughly 0.1% of the total funding, despite the fact that veterans organizations were listed as a vulnerable population in the application package. In round one, the application was not well constructed to meet the reality of how veterans organizations function across Canada. So this meant fragmented applications that had to go out to multiple different places in order to get small amounts of support to support programs like ours. However, I feel that I shouldn't be too hard on the program as of the amount that did go out, our organization was lucky enough to receive a significant portion of that. Roughly 75,000 we raised through the ECSF. Finally, I'll move on to my concerns for the future. So both before COVID and during COVID, we have seen trends where the internal processes at Veterans Affairs are making it more and more difficult for us to receive funding for Veterans Affairs clients who attend our programs. As of last week, they have completely disallowed funding for veterans who are attending our programs across Canada, even though we are a Veterans Affairs service provider. This threatens the stability of our organization because our partnership with Veterans Affairs helps us raise the funds that pay for our administration, our overhead, and it allows us to use donor money specifically to put veterans through the program who are not covered by Veterans Affairs, who do not have a claim. So this trend is quite worrying. The final 2 points are that I do believe that in the coming year, we will see a contraction in the veteran service organization space as this pandemic continues with fewer financial resources in place to prop up organizations. And in particular, I believe smaller organizations that do not have the staffing resources to leverage the available supports will suffer more greatly. Finally, we are hearing from a number of large organizations, funding organizations across Canada, that they're setting an expectation that in 2021, they will start to reduce the amount of funding that they distribute because of the effect of COVID on their finances. I'm probably over time, so I apologize, but thank you for.
I threw you off there for a minute there, so I let you go a little long. I apologize.
No problem.
Thank you very much, sir. Last but not least, from the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 60, Mr. Bob Ankrit. The next 5 minutes are all yours, sir.
Well, first of all, can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. I'm going to diverge from my prepared statement, first of all, and say thank you. It's nice to have everybody here, my colleagues from other legions, thanks, and the rest of you. I mean, it's almost 5 o'clock on a Monday, and you've taken interest in this, which gives me hope. And if anyone, I would doubt whether anyone that I can see on this screen does not have a relative or know someone that has done service in the present or the past in this country. And I think we have to remember that. I'm going to go right into this then. Hopefully you've received it. I'm the city and government liaison. And when I say that, I mean the federal, provincial, and municipal. And we work very closely with all of those people. Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 60 in Burlington, Ontario. To answer the question on how COVID-19 has impacted the Royal Canadian Legion, I think we have to look at some numbers. And I've tried to keep this as simple as possible to make my point, as some of my colleagues have endeavored to do too. During the pandemic times, the cost of maintaining the building that I'm in is about $9,000 a month. That includes things like, just like your home, heat, hydro, insurance, all that sort of stuff. The revenue coming in each month that we put in for fish and chips, which is a much more involved story than just saying fish and chip night on a Friday, which I can go into later, and I did with my colleagues when we had some downtime last week, which included a Las Vegas evening, but I digress. The revenue comes in from fish and chips is about $4,000 a month. Yep, $4,000 in profit. Therefore, our net loss during COVID times is approximately $5,000. And I guess the reason I'm putting this in is I want to give you the scope of it and put some numbers beside those the Legion. During pre-pandemic times, we had quite the programs going on. Hopefully our costs would equal our revenue. Those times would be $27,000 to $40,000 a month. And I'll explain what that's all about later on, depending on the events. But the impact, although financial, is much, much more than that, as you're going to see. The damage done to the community in Canada is more than money in bricks and mortar. To see that impact, I got to say to yourself, this was a business. What do they do? Now, some of you kind of know what they do, and I know my colleagues do, but I just want to make sure that you're fully aware of what you've got here. It's not a place where you can buy inexpensive beer and throw darts on a Friday and a Saturday. It's much more than that. The ease of analysis, I'm going to list what, in a sort of a general sense of what I've done and the guys that work with me, which, by the way, are all volunteers. To provide our country for almost, I guess, about 100 years now, gentlemen. Yeah. The Branch 60's Poppy Fund Drive puts an average of $156,000 back into the community in the form of grants and supports. Most of you, I hope, are familiar with the fact that none of these funds, none, not a dime, can go into paying for the Legion. We can't pay insurance or electricity, We have 1 minute left. Okay. Dinner, dances, various charity events, celebration for veterans, meeting rooms, first responders, veterans and staff, veteran affairs to meet people, social groups, seniors, dart playing, exercise, speech therapy classes, events with representatives from the government, including some of your ministers, practice area for music groups, awards, cadet drills, Remembrance Day ceremony, planning and execution. 2,000 people tuned in last time. Victory in Europe celebration, banners on the streets for veterans, networking with the Dutch Association and the Minister of Defense, and a safe place if you want to come in and have a cup of coffee. Lastly, and I hope I can get this in, while most of our efforts are focused on the past and present, vets and their families, the Legion maintains a national focus on our history that reminds us of what these men and women in uniform and their families waiting at home do for us, and how they built Canada when they came back. If the Legion fails, all of those things that I ran through at lightning speed, they won't exist. They won't exist next year or for the next 100 years. You have to make a decision. Not a loss for the Legion, but a loss for the community and for Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And that is all of the opening remarks, I believe, from our witnesses. We are going to start off our first round of questions from the Conservative Party MP Colin Carey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to start off, Bob, you thanked us. I want to take this opportunity from all of us to thank you and all the volunteers with all the service clubs here today. And I do want to apologize. I know there's been some rescheduling, but you can take it from the heart that everyone around this table, this is a nonpartisan committee, and we all have our hearts out there for you, and we recognize all the great work that you do. I would like to start off asking Brian a few things from Oshawa. Brian, you know, it has been about a year since this crisis started, and a lot of the clubs, you mentioned one of the sad stories that I heard, the closing of the Peterborough Club, the Navy Club there, a club that's been open for years, and you had to go up there and help close it down. There has been some criticism about how long it took the money to come out, and you've raised the alarm for us because this is lasting a lot longer than anybody thought. I was just wondering, do you think that more clubs could have been saved if the money was out there a little bit quicker?
Well, definitely. I mean, a lot of clubs could have been saved if the money was out there quicker. The dilemma is this is the first time that anybody's been through this, so nobody really knew what to do, right? I knew they had to look after the normal, like the regular citizens of Canada first, and I understand that. But it wasn't very long after this pandemic started that the concerns started coming out from the Legions and the other service clubs. But there was quite a very extensive amount of time before any action was taken. That's the part that's bothering everyone, because yeah, we lost a lot of clubs and a lot of them were unnecessarily closed. If the action could have been taken a little bit quicker, for sure.
Well, that it was brought up a little bit about how much you guys actually do in the community, and I know you guys look after the cadets, you know, local charities you mentioned that you support. Could you let everybody know around the table here what your club does in the service it provides to the community, and what would be the effect if the club did close?
Well, the community's basically feeling that effect now with us being closed just for the lockdown and the pandemic itself. I can't imagine how devastating it would be if it was for good. Simcoe Hall Settlement House, like we have a lot of people that are looking for food in Oshawa. I mean, it's the same as any other city in Canada, and the Simcoe Hall Settlement House, Salvation Army, Denise House, United Way, they're all people that we support, right? So as well as the veterans and their families too, looking for, pension advice and stuff like that. We're doing that all the time. And like I said earlier, we work with the Legion in regards to that because they have a pretty good program. They're actually better than ours. Like Mr. Davis mentioned, we're not associated with the Legion or anybody else. We're our own entity, right? So we make our own rules. We decide what's best for us, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not. But we've always done community first. We can't get by without them. I mean, we have to have community, right? You have to have food banks on this, unfortunately, and we do a lot of work with them.
Well, if you could talk to Canadians, and I think one of the things I realized is how cost effective you clubs are in the community. I think somebody mentioned, the fraud with the CERB, billions of dollars, and there was $20 million put towards the Legions and service clubs. But you supply all these services and benefits to the community. You're all year round volunteers, but many people don't realize the service clubs are sometimes separate entities from the Legions as well. Could you explain to anybody listening in, do you receive any support from the federal government routinely, your club?
No, none at all. None at all. In fact, if you remember the was it throne speech that was done earlier this year, there was no mention of service clubs. It was only the Legion mentioned. I know that came back to the Speaker of the House, and that was corrected. But that's the same attitude that a lot of Canadians have. They'll say, "Oh, the Navy Club, what is that? Or where is it?" Everybody thinks Legion. Now, Legions are a good thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, but if it wasn't for the Navy, the ground forces, and everything, there wouldn't be a Legion. Like, we all fought together, right? So, as far as the impact would go, I can't imagine there not being all the other service clubs. And as far as what you mentioned, Colin, about the money of the CERB, I was the one that brought that up about a lot of fraud with the CERB. Just yesterday or the day before, they mentioned on the news that there was 636 million went to teenagers. Some of them 15, 16 years old received CERB. Now, how are they going to get that back? Are they going to go after their parents? Are they going to ignore it? Is it going to be washed? The money going to be forgot about, like they're going to do with federal and provincial inmates? How are you going to get the money back from them? I find it very distressful that that kind of money was laid out and possibly going to be written off, and the service clubs are still here today fighting for some type of help. To me, I'm not quite understanding this process, right?
Thank you. That's time. Up next, we have MP Will Amos, please. 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to all of the witnesses. Very, very appreciated. And I would echo MP Carey's comment that really this is a committee that is really focused on ensuring that we do right by Canada's veterans. We all share that those values, and I want to focus. My attention on the testimony by Mr. Thorne with respect to the Veterans Transition Network. I'd like to learn a bit more about some of the differences that the organization or different services that it provides province by province. J'aurais voulu poser en français.
I would have liked to ask in French, just to give you an opportunity to express yourself in French, since I'm a Quebec MP. So I would like to know, are there any services offered in Quebec, and are there differences in terms of the services you offer?
Désolé. Merci pour la question.
Sorry, thank you for the question. And I have to apologize for the quality of my French grammar. I know it's probably horrific, but I'll do my best. Yes, we do offer services in Quebec. We have expanded throughout Canada over the past 8 years. In 2014 or 15, thereabouts, we offered the first program in Quebec. At that right now, we have services in 9 provinces across Canada. The program, it's the same program in all provinces. It's the same curriculum. It's the same subjects that are discussed, the same activities we carry out. But in French, obviously, this program is offered entirely in French. We have a program coordinator based in Montreal, and that ensures all the communications with veterans who want to participate in the program. So it's very important for a Canadian association to offer the same levels of service for all veterans, be they Anglophones, Francophones, men, women. This goal is specifically significant in terms of our expansion across Canada. And the new program we created last year during the pandemic, the first program that we set up during the pandemic was indeed in Quebec. Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
How you have a broad appreciation for the range of federal support programs that have been put out there. Obviously, there's the $20 million specifically for veterans organizations. But the wage subsidy is a huge one. And I'm glad that you pointed that out. But your comments around the ECSF not being, as helpful as it could have been, I'm very interested. I'm very interested to hear what specifically your organization was asking for through that program. I understand you said you got 70,000, but that I think that's an area of interest. I haven't heard that comment so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for asking that question in English, because that would be significantly more difficult to answer in my broken French. So thank you. So specifically with the ECSF, as I said, I do think looking, as a charitable organization, it seems to me that it was probably a very successful program for Canada's charitable sector as a whole. I do think that it was not well adapted to meet the needs of specifically veterans service organizations. So for 2 reasons. The first, particularly in round 1, the way the applications were structured, because this money was dispersed through the community foundations, it was dispersed in very small, specific regional pockets. So we're talking about the Vancouver Foundation, the Ottawa Foundation, Toronto Foundation. Because of the way that we deliver programs province specific, because registrations for psychologists and counselors are province specific. So if we want to run a program in Ontario, it's open to all veterans within Ontario, not only within the borders of Ottawa or the borders within Toronto. But those were questions that were specifically asked in the applications from the community foundations for the Emergency Community Support Fund. And if we said, well, look, maybe of the people who are on the program, only 1 or 2 of them will be within the boundaries of Ottawa, well, all of a sudden that made our application not a good fit for the Ottawa Community Service Organization or the Ottawa Community Fund. So because of the way that we deliver, because of the geographical and regional realities of where veterans live, those applications and the way they were dispersed, particularly in round 1, were not well adapted to how veterans organizations operate. Am I at time there?
If you can keep it under 10 seconds.
Okay. In round 2, they did have a national stream that was better suited to national organizations, but almost no money was given to veterans organizations in round 2.
Well done. Excellent. Now over to MP Desilets for 6 minutes, please.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank my colleagues and the witnesses for appearing and to answer our questions. First of all, my first question is for Madam Suzanne Lay. I was looking at your website, and we can see that that this is your 25th anniversary. So congratulations. Maybe mistaken. I hope I'm not. You were set up in 2001. My first question, I would like to know, does your organization take into account the homeless women? Do you take them into account the same way as you handle veteran homeless people? That's just a question.
Thank you for your question. If I'm to understand it correctly, you're asking me if I consider regular homeless population to the homeless veteran population. Is that correct?
Ma question, dans le fond, c'est...
No, my question is basically, do you take into account homeless women as much as homeless men within your organizations? His sound quality is a little poor. The interpreter is having a hard time following Mr. Desile. Thank you.
To both male and female. And in fact, our first offer that went out on December 23rd went to a female veteran who had been living in her car in the Legion parking lots since 2019. And Legion had certified her service. So each unit is an independent living unit so that each person can live within their own space. It means they have their own washroom, their own little kitchenette and a bedroom, but then they have a lot of community space where they can come together and where they can kind of create that unit. And also we can do a lot of programming, but it is open to both male and females. When it comes to men and women represented in the homeless population, and this is something you would know from the study that was done, is that female veterans make up about 3 to 10% of the homeless veteran population.
OK, c'est très clair. Est-ce que...
That was very clear. Could we imagine that? Unfortunately, the interpreter is losing segments of Mr. Desile's speech. Could you ask him to repeat that? Yes, we are losing segments. Yes. Yeah, please speak closer to the mic. That's what I think the problem is. Yeah, right now I can hear him. Yes, following what you said. Yes, Mr. Chair. He's speaking closer to his mic, so I can hear him now. Earlier he was speaking too far from the mic, so yes. But okay, it's my fault, Madame Lay. I just want to have some confirmation from you that the LGBTQ2 communities are also taken into account and that they are welcome in your organization.
We have a very open organization, very welcoming to the LGBTQ, and we are aware that they may have very specific areas of concern and areas where maybe some of their trauma might be coming from within their veteran experience, and that is being taken into account in our programming.
Parfait. Bravo.
Excellent. An American study suggests that amongst the best practices, we have to separate the homeless by gender. The male should be put together and the women with other women. Do you have the possibility of taking such factors into account?
Each one gets their own unit, so no one's bunking together. People aren't in their own, they have their own private space, but within the building, we have male and female together. And that has to do with, one, creating a community. Two, we're talking about people who are coming from a military background. So they have a little bit of a different perspective in that it's more about that creation of the military unit, the brothers and sisters in arms, versus maybe a more civilian perspective, which I would guess that other study came from a civilian perspective.
Parfait. Dernière petite question, Monsieur le Président.
Just one last question. Your website is very well constructed. Your communications are only in English. Would you offer services in French?
The services in the building and to our tenants is also offered in French. Right now, we do not have the resources to do translations onto websites and such. It would be a tremendous amount of resources, which is something that's not within our budget ability at this moment in time. We do hope to be able to reach that capacity at some point in the future, but can't afford it at this moment.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have MP Blaney for 6 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize for reaching out. I just felt bad the witness was helping.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you, all of you, for your testimony today. I know that during this time of increased uncertainty, I represent 11 legions in my riding. It's been very hard for many of them, and they've been so great at keeping me updated about what was happening. But I think we all know that legions and veteran service organizations provide such a pivotal role to the community, and I just want to acknowledge everybody for the hard work that they've done. I know most recently, just talking about homelessness, one of the veterans in my riding, Bill Webb, has been working very closely with several legions across Vancouver Island to try to put together a project and a plan to address homelessness for veterans in my riding, and I'm incredibly impressed with the work that he's doing and look forward to supporting that in whatever way that I can. If I could just come to you first, Ms. Lee, I just first of all want to say that I don't agree with you. I have worked with many veterans, women veterans who have experienced military-specific sexual trauma, who really feel the need to provide a more safe environment for themselves. So I don't know that it is just civilian research that talks about women specifically needing safe housing that may be women specific. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to any research or work that your organization has done on sex and gender-based Canadian research to make sure that all the initiatives are safe and inclusive for all veterans.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Blaney. So there has been a good amount of research, and there are, for some women, this will not be a good environment for them because we have serving military who will be coming in and out of the building in our community partnerships. And for some women, that sight of the uniform is a trigger. And therefore, this is not a healthy environment for them. We have 139 other units that are not Veterans House that have different space for them that would be a better fit. But Veterans House is for people who will be very comfortable in this environment. So every tenant, when we do an intake, they come in and they are interviewed by our housing manager as well as the mental health supports worker. The kind of programming that happens in the house and the kind of people who will be living in the house is explained to them. They're taken in a tour of the building, and based on that, they are either made an offer or not made an offer. If we think that this environment is an unhealthy fit for them, then we deny them the
I think you've answered my question, and I just want to point out that in last Parliament, of course, the study we did around housing talked about how women veterans are one of the most increasing populations we see in veterans. So it's too bad that there's an exclusive nature to the work that you do. If I could go to Mr. Thorne, I really want to thank you for your testimony today. I found that really informative. You talked about the ability for your organization to modify the program. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that looks like as a member of parliament that represents a more rural riding. Sometimes we find the biggest challenge, of course, is getting people to a place where they get the support and the treatment they need. So I'm just curious about how that's been modified.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So I'll compare and contrast our previous program and how we've modified the program for delivery during COVID. So the Veterans Transition Program, which is our 20-year-long running program that we typically deliver, is 10 days in total, but it's broken up into 3 workshops. So 4 days, 4 days, and 2 days, with roughly a 2 to 3 week separation between each workshop. That's sort of constructed with the idea that veterans are coming into the space working on the challenges that they're experiencing, developing skills and awarenesses, and they go home to 2 to 3 weeks to integrate those in their day-to-day life. So the total duration of the program that we typically deliver is about 4 to 6 weeks. Multiple instances of travel and physical action interventions that we use on the program to address trauma. Again, not a good fit for COVID. So the delivery that we have adapted to, we're calling the Transition Skills course. It's a single 5-day in-person retreat. So still delivered in person, but we've incorporated a COVID-19 protocol and safety plan, PPE that was provided by Red Cross Canada, and training to that effect as well. And we've incorporated social distancing protocols into the delivery of the program. So our typical program is a circle of 10 veterans and psychologists. It's now a bigger circle. And we have protocols at the retreat centers so that meals are individual, just taking precaution at every step that we can to minimize contact between participants and between participants and staff. In terms of the curriculum, the program has been adapted to really address some of the challenges that we're hearing from veterans during the time in COVID. So obviously, many veterans are struggling with their transition or perhaps a traumatic event because of service. And now if you think, and I know I've got a minute here, so I'm going to try and go through this quickly. A lot of their supports, informal or formal, have been reduced in their accessibility. They are at home in close quarters with family, which is more challenging. So we're working a lot around communication, emotional regulation, and planning for the future. So we've modified the curriculum to focus on that because that's what we've heard from veterans that they're struggling with.
Yeah, I've heard similar things. So I mean, I've only got 10 seconds, but I'm just wondering, you see the bigger circle, does that mean you have to get bigger space or rent that? Was that an added cost?
Most of the spaces that we typically use were able to accommodate us. We are seeing increased costs because there's fewer efficiencies, if you will, with this design of the program. So yes, costs have increased a little bit.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And now over to MP Broussard, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all our witnesses for being here today. I want to go back to Mr. Thorne because you mentioned something, and I caught it briefly about you were concerned in large part to a contraction of veteran support services going forward, and I understood that to be more broadly. We've heard concerns from the Legion, et cetera, the closure of the Legions. But you also mentioned something about an internal processing decision within Veterans Affairs to disallow funding for veterans, but you weren't specific on that particular part. So I'm interested in hearing what that was.
Yes, thank you for the question. So as I mentioned earlier in my sort of brief introduction to VTN, so we've been a registered service provider for Veterans Affairs Canada since 2013. So basically what that means is for veterans who attend our program through a claim with Veterans Affairs, or if their claim would cover an entitlement for our program to essentially be funded, then their participation is paid for by the department. So it's a cost for, or a fee for service, basically. It makes up in any given year about a third of the clients who attend our programs. The remaining 2/3, we raise the funding as a charitable organization to cover their costs to go through the program, because either they don't have a Veterans Affairs claim, this remaining 2/3, or perhaps their claim doesn't extend to cover that cost. I do think that this has been one of the roles that we play as a service provider specifically to Veterans Affairs Canada, is we are reaching a segment of the veteran population that is not engaging with
so
some of the.
What reason were you given for this this funding to be disallowed?
Just that they have entered an internal review of the program. They flagged this new program for review. At the time that we launched the program, we spoke to a number of people at Veterans Affairs, some people at MedAV, and they said as a registered service provider, which we were, we would be eligible to bill for this new program. We've had probably about 20 Veterans Affairs clients go through the program who have been funded. But just last week, we were notified by somebody in the Manitoba office that the program has been flagged, and they are now blanket refusing all approvals until that review has taken place. And we're seeing that also that response is being mirrored in other offices now, because we are entering our 2021 program delivery, and we're just receiving no from offices across Canada. The only thing we've been told is that it's under review. We're not sure why.
Okay. I think there's more information that needs to come out on this, but we don't have enough time in my line of questioning. Mr. Davis, I want to talk to you. 30th anniversary of the Gulf War. I want to thank you for your service. I know you represent a large group of Gulf War veterans. Speak to the impact that COVID is having on the group that you represent, maybe a little bit more in depth.
Thank you, sir. COVID is having a big effect on a lot of them. My Christmas is an example. I was talking to 3 different veterans that because of COVID, they can't go out anymore. They have PTSD, high anxiety, and I'm trying to talk them off the ledge. And that's where my Christmas was this year. So COVID on my group of people, or veterans, I should say, it is affecting them, but in so many different ways. I got some guys that are watching every penny. I got some guys that are having a hard time just going out to get groceries if they can, or if they have to carry them in. I got other people that are having a hard time with some of their claims trying to get through VAC before they have to make major decisions.
I know you and I have talked about that, and there's been a lot of movement in the United States with Veterans Affairs and other veterans government agencies around the world recognizing some of those claims. I know we've only got about 45 seconds. Maybe talk to the difficulty in Persian Gulf veterans getting their claims.
Well, Persian Gulf veterans, when they put their claim in, to start with, Gulf War illness is not recognized by VAC. So, and many other countries, it's starting, especially the Americans. I keep sending the information. It's not really doing what it should be doing. They VAC sticks to their guns that it doesn't really exist. They treat the individual ailments, and that's great. But when you're talking to a veteran that's been suffering for 30 years, the individual ailments now all roll into one ailment, and they're having a really hard time with it. But it's so hard for them to turn around and speak to anybody, because most of the people in VAC hasn't got a clue, because it's older than 30 years now. And most of the Persian Gulf veterans has almost been forgotten on the world stage and within Canada itself. VAC tries to help in what the ways they can help, but they're still falling short of what they can do for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now on for 5 minutes with MP Casey, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be directing my questions to the Multi-Faith Housing Organization, but before I do, Mr. Thorne, this is my second tour of duty in this committee. When I was first on the committee in 2011, 2012, we had the privilege of traveling, and we visited the Veterans Transition Network. I got to meet Dr. Westwood and Mr. Laidler. In fact, as I open your webpage, I see a photograph of our visit to your facility there with a couple of my colleagues that are no longer with us. I remember at the time remarking how incredible the work was that was being done, and not only that, but how scalable it was. So I want to congratulate you, not having followed your organization in between, at the remarkable progress that you made. As I say, I'm going to address my questions to Ms. Lee, but I have great admiration, having seen what it came from and where you are now. If I get a chance to come back to you, I will. Ms. Lee, thank you very much for the work that you do and and your presentation here today. And congratulations on the opening of the Veterans House, I would say against pretty substantial odds. You talked about the support that that you had been given in order for that to happen. I think you said $6.5 million. I know that there is other funding available under the National Housing Strategy. Was through the programs that are within your organization, have you been part of an application under the Rapid Housing Initiative, perchance? It seems to me that it would be the sort of thing that would be aligned with the work that you do.
Thanks for that question. The $6.5 million did come under the National Housing Strategy under the co-investment fund run by CMHC, and the rapid housing money had very specific rules and timelines around it. And one of those rules was it could not be an already funded project. So Veterans House was automatically excluded from rapid housing money, but we did get CMHC National Housing money, National Housing Strategy money from the co-investment fund.
Were you able to avail of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy to cover some of the salaries through the pandemic?
We were able to avail for a very small amount for 10%, not the 25%. So fundraised money doesn't count necessarily as income, so it makes it a little difficult when your organization is really based in fundraising.
You talked about wraparound supports. Can you talk a little bit more about that and whether there is a partnership with the federal government in connection with the delivery of those supports?
So VAC is going to be, Veterans Affairs Canada has agreed to provide us with caseworker support in the building for our tenants. I'm going to give a kudos here and a very happy wave to my Legion friends in front of me and my co-witnesses, because the Legion is come forward with $100,000 a year to pay for the full-time mental health support worker who's in the building. And so that has been fantastic that we know we have that money and that mental health support worker. We also have the Legion coming in and doing work one-on-one with the tenants to help them make sure that they're connected with all of their services and their that's available to them through Veterans Affairs, and make sure that they get their Veterans Affairs card. We have a group called Soldiers Helping Soldiers, who are serving military people, boots on the ground, who go out and they will, General Stu Bear is one of their patrons, so might be known to some of you, but he is, they come in and they're going to be doing a peer mentoring service program for the tenants. As I said, we will have people in uniform in the building.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Do I have time for another question, Mr. May?
You have about 45 seconds.
All right. I am going to ask you a question, Mr. Thorne. You talked about the $200,000 that you received under the Veterans Emergency Support Fund. You said the application experience was smooth. That runs counter to some of the other testimony that we've heard. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Very briefly, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think I can elaborate. You know, the experience was smooth compared to a lot of other applications, in particular the ECSF. You know, the advantage that we have as an organization is that we have a dedicated grant writer and professional fundraiser. So, you know, from our perspective as an organization that does this professionally, it was a smooth, simple process. But I can understand for those perhaps who don't have those resources, don't have the experience grant writing, that it could be a challenging process. And I know that I've just got a couple of seconds here, but I wanted to thank you, Mr. Casey, for your comments. And just to echo that the Veterans Transition Network would not exist were it not for the Legion. And I'd just like to make that comment. They've been an integral part of both piloting, developing, and supporting the program for 20 years, our longest standing donor. So as much as I'm here to talk about my organization's experience, I have to highlight that it would not exist without the bedrock foundation of the Legion.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Thank you. And now over to MP Desilets for 2.5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Thorne, you said that you received $200,000 from the emergency fund. And does it allow you to meet your needs? You always want more, but does it allow you to meet your needs during the pandemic? Thank you for the question, Mr. Desilets. For the first 6 months of 2021, the answer is yes. We are in a strong financial position right now. We are committed to offer programs everywhere in Canada in the next 6 months. However,
English, I apologize. We are prepared and we have the demand to deliver a full suite of programs across Canada for the next 6 months. If the financial sector does continue to contract. If there is less money available, the CEWS is about to end. Large funding organizations are telling us that there is going to be less money available in the next year, and all of our Veterans Affairs funding has effectively been cut. If nothing on that front changes within the next 6 months, we will be in a very challenging position. We have the ability to forge ahead and deliver these programs because we're being asked to do so by veterans, and we're going to do that. But we are going to have to reinvent ourselves in our financial situation again this year, as we did last year.
Thank you very much. Quick question for Mr. Davis and Mr. Wilkins. I want to talk about the $14 million. Why wasn't it 20 million? Regardless, did the government consult you before this announcement was made? Did they consult you to know what your needs were?
You each have about 10 seconds.
Well, as far as the Navy Club is concerned, we found out about it 3 days before the application had to be put in. So we didn't have any time to prepare or anything. There was absolutely no mention prior to 3 days before.
I echo the same thing.
Thank you. Now over for 2.5 minutes to MP Blaney, please.
Thank you, Chair. And Mr. Thorne, I'm just going to come back to you. You talked about Mr. Broussard also asked you about this, about the funding that's going to be cut from the AC, and that from what I understand from your initial presentation, 1/3 of the seats that you host are covered by that, and it sounds like that's been cut completely. So I'm just wondering, was there a clear warning and a rationale? Are you still considered a Veterans Affairs service provider? And how many folks will lose their seats? And then another one, because I have such a short period of time, is I also saw on your website that you do a COVID tiered support, peer support program. I'm just wondering if that has any supports from VAC as well.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. So yes, typically 1/3 of the, we aim to have 1/3 of the veterans attending our programs covered by Veterans Affairs. I talked earlier about the reality of charitable organizations. It's very difficult to convince people to give you funding to fund your staff, to fund your rent, your internet connection. The way we function as an organization is 1/3 of our clients being Veterans Affairs clients. That funding is unrestricted. We can use it for any purpose that we need. And so typically that's the funding that we dedicate to pay for our staff and our overhead. The remaining 2/3 that allows us to tell all of our donors this money is supporting veterans directly. It's not being spent on our overhead. So that's why it's so important. We receive no warning. So far as I understand, we're still a Veterans Affairs service provider, but not for the program that we've designed to run specifically during COVID, which is obviously a challenge. Again, for the next 6 months, no veterans will lose their seats, but that will change if we cannot find an alternative funding source or fix this with Veterans Affairs in the next 6 months. We're going to steam ahead, but it is putting ourselves at risk. Finally, the tiered peer support program is not supported by Veterans Affairs directly, but it is funded through a partnership with the Center of Excellence on PTSD, and we're currently developing that and rolling that out this year.
Thank you. And I guess the last thing, I'm coming back to that Veterans Affairs service provider. So you still don't know if you're included in that. And if you are included in that still, will you be able to revision a different way of programming? And I ran a charity for over 8 years, so I know a lot about those core funds. I appreciate you making that clear for the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And over to MP Wagenthal for 5 minutes, please. Oh, she's gone. That's right. She's not going to be joining us for questions. John.
I think it was Mr. Seaback.
Mr. Seaback, MP Seaback, please.
Okay, great. I just was wondering, Mr. Thorne, you mentioned other offices. Are there other programs that are being cut?
Are you asking sort of within our organization, or?
Yes.
So the core program that we deliver is at first the VTP and now that 5-day TSC. It is really our core offering. So that's really the only service that we deliver currently. We are working on that new peer support intervention as well. But as of now, that's our core programming. So it's the only program to be cut, as it were. But it seems, at least for now, it has been cut or paused at least by Veterans Affairs.
Okay, thanks. Just to any of the witnesses, because I know your statements are short, and we're almost at the end of our time today. Does anyone have anything that they wanted to add that they did not get a chance to add in their opening statements, which I know are very brief?
I would like to say something there, please. I've been listening to everybody talk here today and listen to where the questions are being directed. And as I said in my opening statement, the smaller the smaller veterans groups that are not brick and mortar have been totally, basically almost ignored totally in this COVID-19 funding. And it's not right that these smaller groups, because some of the veterans out there don't want to be part of the Legion. They don't want to be part of different other organizations. They're just, as I call it, the mom and pop organizations, but yet it's totally ignored as a group. And of all the questions today, I didn't really have one that said anything about the smaller groups out there and how they were being funded or anything. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
And Mr. Davis, you did say that part of the challenge is the complexity of the programs, even if there are some that you can apply for. What is that, because, again, the size of your organization, or so you don't have someone who's there to be able to specifically look at and check every box and dot every I to apply for the programs that are out there?
Well, I heard today we got grant writers. We got webmasters out there that takes care of and makes all of these really nice web pages. The smaller groups don't have that luxury of having grant writers, and they don't have luxury of having webmasters, and that we can afford to pay for all of these people that can do these jobs for us. We're all volunteers, and our expertise is not in sometimes doing stuff like that. I got a treasurer that's a serving member. He's trying to do the best he can. I got a vice president that works civilian side. He tries to do the best he can, but we are not experts in the field. So when we turned around, and our treasurer and vice president, we all looked at the process for applying for these grants. It was so complex for us because we are a registered charity, but we're not gone to the point that we can hand out receipts for donations, because we can't afford that part of the CRA Act or whatever you call it. So we have to rely on what we're doing as it is, as the status quo. So for us, we can't answer all of these questions. We don't have we got financial statements, but we don't have the big income tax filings that everybody else does. So for the little guys out there, the mom and pop veterans that work their tail off to try to help people out, it gets overlooked very quickly. And I just watched it here today. So the bigger organizations, yes, they do great work, but there are some veterans out there that don't want anything to do with the big organizations. And the ones that I'm helping, three-quarters of them won't even talk to the Legion.
Right.
But
Okay. Mr. Seaback, if I could take a moment, I would like to respond to Ms. Blaney's comment about Veterans House being exclusive. Veterans House is in no way exclusive to any one gender. It is open to all genders and all people who identify in any kind of gender. The reality is, though, it is a place that is exclusive to veterans. You must have served, and you have to be comfortable in order to be in the building with people who will be in uniform coming into the building. If that is not a place of comfort for you, if that is going to do more harm than good, we do have other buildings and we have other units. We have 139 other units, as I mentioned, and we have supports that go into those buildings as well. And we will definitely house them and prioritize them. But this building is for a specific need. Housing is a very complex issue with and it will take complex responses to deal with it. And it requires a lot of tools in the toolbox. Veterans House is one tool that's in the toolbox, and we need more. And maybe there will be at some point in time the need and demand and the ability for us to do a female-only space, but there would need to be the demand and the funding for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's time. I'm going to Andy. Oh, I see Mr. Wilkinson has his hand up, but maybe we'll come back to you, sir. Andy, you have a very, very short window for a question or two.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to say thank you to all the witnesses as well for making time for us today. Mr. Wilkins, I was listening to your making the point about the difference between legions and service clubs. Here in Halifax, we have 3 legions and 2 service clubs, and they all perform remarkably well. And I'm spend a lot of time at each one of them. And then, Mr. Ankrit, your comment about fish and chip night and the importance of alternate funding arrangements and taking your point about it's much more complicated than just fish and chips. It makes me think about turning to other creative sources of revenue. And one thing that was happening before the pandemic, at least in Nova Scotia, was that recruitment was tipping off, and legions and service clubs were having a hard time keeping their membership up. So that was sort of a double whammy. And I'm wondering if perhaps there's something that the government could be helping, perhaps with a program around recruitment that would help to sort of bring people back to the
very brief question or brief answer, please.
Anybody at all?
Can you hear me? It's Bob.
Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you've got multiple issues here. You're covering legions, you're covering service clubs, you're covering the guys that are coming back from Afghanistan, Kuwait. I mean, it's huge, the issues that you have to look at. And I think if you try to put them all into one basket, you won't get very many things done. I think you need subcommittees to look at different things, service clubs, legions, housing, benefits, healthcare. And I think you have to do it, and you have to do it soon. And I think someone mentioned earlier that if you don't, from a financial point of view, you will lose all of those poppy funds that are into the millions of dollars across Canada that are put back into your community, whether it's hospitals or veterans that need wheelchairs that someone can't afford, etc. You're going to lose that, but you got 100 years of history here. If anyone doubts me, go to a Remembrance Day and look at the faces of the people in the crowd. Look at those faces. That's Canada. You're going to lose that, and you're going to lose it on your watch, and you've lost some already. So whatever you're going to do it now. Do it quick. If you don't, they're gone.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Wilkins, we're actually over time, but I'm going to give you 30 seconds if you have one final point for us tonight.
Yeah, I have one final point I want to make, that I was a civilian who served in Afghanistan, and there's many, many civilians across Canada that also served over there in hospitality. I actually drove a fire on the base. I fueled up tanks and D-Labs and stuff with dangerous jet fuel. But when I came home, I have a hearing loss from over there from a rocket attack. And there's a lot of other civilians that have had problems when they've come home from there too. There is absolutely no programs available for us at all. I talked to Veterans Affairs. The first thing they ask for is an ID number. I don't have a D&D number, and I've actually been hung up on because I argued with them. As a civilian who went over there and put their life on the line to help our soldiers, I think all the civilians across Canada should be recognized with different programs that unfortunately we're not, right? And you guys are all sitting here today, you're all MPs. Maybe it's time that one of you guys decided that the civilians, they've been in every war that Canada's ever been in, and they've never been recognized. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. And I want to take an opportunity to thank each and every one of you. This is the final meeting of this study, and each of you have been able to contribute in a number of ways to help us with this. I want to thank all my colleagues scattered all over Canada for staying on time and getting in some really good questions that will hopefully result in a solid report, which we will see in the coming days and weeks. Thank you all very much. Thanks to all the technical people in Ottawa. and the clerks and the translation folk so that we can all be heard in this unique way. Thank you very much, everybody. I move to adjourn today. Thank you.